Hello, so I thought I'd have a look at barrel accessories because they're kind of confusing. So I'm looking at 4 of them. The Muzzle Break, which reduces vertical recoil but reduces accuracy as well. The Compensator, which does horizontal and reduces accuracy as well. The Heavy Barrel, which increases accuracy but also increases recoil. And the Suppressor, which apparently just reduces muzzle velocity. So I decided to test them out in the test range using this wall, which is 25 meters away, which seems about mid-range, and there's a convenient bush which marks that I'm the same distance every time. So I'm using the M416 because it's a gun that I've unlocked all these attachments for, and it's quite standard. So this is the M416 without any attachments on other than the sight, and we get quite a clear pattern on the wall. So I'm shooting from the bottom of those vertical lines, so I've got a reference each time, and I'm going to do 3 patterns with each attachment. So that's the bare gun, and then we can move up to check the patterns out closer. So there's a definite right hand recoil, and vertical recoil is pretty reasonable. So then I captured each picture of this wall and put a dot on for every bullet strike, and that lets me produce this little map, which means I can then compare the other attachments to this using the bare gun as the base layer. So it's quite a bit of work in paint.net to make these things and put each set of dots into a different layer, but not too bad. So the first attachment is the Muzzle Break. So this is supposed to reduce the vertical recoil by 25%, but has a 30% accuracy penalty. Now the accuracy penalty is something that kind of confused me because it doesn't really state what it is, and it's also, if a bullet deviates because of the accuracy, does the next one then recoil away from that, or does it recoil from where it should have shot? So this is the pattern for the Muzzle Break, and it's not a very pretty pattern, but we can now compare it to the base. So the Muzzle Break's in blue, and I've counted them up, and yes, you do get 3 or 4 more shots onto the wall because the vertical recoil is reduced, but as you can see, the spread of the bullet is much wider, so it doesn't seem all that useful. So the next one to try is the Compensator, back at the bush, and this attachment is supposed to reduce the side-to-side recoil, but again at the penalty of accuracy. And so we'll do the 3 kind of mag dumps again. And then we can move up and check them out. So it's definitely not as wide a spread pattern as the Muzzle Breaks was, but let's compare it to the bare gun. So as you can see, the recoil is more vertical with less lean to the right, but the spread is wider, and it will make the recoil easier to compensate because you don't have to pull left, but the accuracy penalty does seem a bit too steep. So our next attachment is the heavy barrel, which increases accuracy but at the penalty of recoil. It doesn't say how much the recoil is increased by, but we shall see with this wall test. So again, we're doing 3 bursts up the wall, but as you can see, I'm using less ammo to reach the top of the wall, so the recoil is increased by quite a bit, and it works out between 5 and 7 shots less hitting the wall, so that's quite considerable recoil. So we're getting a more vertical line and we're getting a tighter pattern because we've got increased accuracy. The more vertical line is because the less shots mean there's less horizontal recoil affecting it as it goes up the wall. So the final attachment I'm going to check is the suppressor. So back at the bush, and we'll start firing again. So the main advantage of the suppressor is it keeps you off the mini-map, providing of course that you haven't got a commander with a UAV, which makes suppressors slightly less useful than they used to be. Now the penalty is reduced muzzle velocity, which makes it a bit harder to track moving targets, but the spread shouldn't be affected, so there should be no difference in recoil at all with the suppressor now. So let's check that out on the comparison, and as you can see they're pretty much identical. So there's no spread, there's no increased recoil, no loss of accuracy, they're pretty much the same. So this would seem to suggest the only penalty for using the suppressor is hitting moving targets at range. So here's the 4 accessories and what are the conclusions we can draw. The muzzle brake is probably not of any use on a gun like the 416, but what it would be of use on is a fast firing, high recoiling gun that you plan to use at close range, something like a PDW or one of the fast firing carbines. At close ranges the muzzle brake's accuracy penalty isn't really going to apply. Now the harder attachment to justify using is the compensator. Unless a gun has a massive amount of side-to-side recoil, particularly if it's matched recoil, so it's recoiling left and right, I can't see why you'd use a compensator. And if a gun is that bad, why would you be using it in the first place? So the heavy barrel I can see using on an already accurate gun to make it really good at long range. So on some of the wide open tank maps, if you want to use an assault rifle, then it will make it a lot more accurate if you're burst firing, but not if you're full auto. And the suppressor is going to be a useful tool for keeping you off the mini-map, but it is going to affect how easy it is to hit moving targets at medium and long range, because you're going to get more bullet drop and the bullets are going to take longer to hit the target. But if you want to sneak, it seems a penalty worth taking. So next time I'm going to be looking at underbarrel accessories. Thanks for watching, and I hope you find this of some use.